Do you know Riau in Indonesia? Before I tell you all about Riau, don't forget to click subscribe to support me in my YouTube channel, Maulana Relaxing Official, and I will ask you around the world. Thank you. Riau is a province of Indonesia. It is located in the central eastern coast of Sumatra along the Strait of Malacca. Until 2004 the province included the offshore Riau Islands, a large group of small islands, of which the principal islands are Batam and Bintan, located east of Sumatra Island and south of Singapore, before these islands were split off as a province in July 2004. The provincial capital and the largest city of Riau is Pekanbaru. The province shares land borders with North Sumatra to the northwest, West Sumatra to the west, and Jambi to the south. The total area for Riau province is 87,023.66 square kilometers, 33,600.02 square miles, which stretches from the slopes of the Bukit Barisan to the Strait of Malacca. Riau has a wet tropical climate with average rainfall ranging between 2,000 and 3,000 mm per year, and the average rainfall per year is about 160 days. Riau is currently one of the richest provinces in Indonesia and is rich in natural resources, particularly petroleum, natural gas, rubber, palm oil and fiber plantations. Extensive logging and plantation development has led to a massive decline in forest cover. Riau and associated fires have contributed to haze across the larger region. Riau is considered part of the Malay world. It is currently considered as the cultural center of the Malays in Indonesia. Nevertheless, Riau is considered a very diverse province, as it is inhabited by many ethnic groups, such as Malay, Minangkabau, Chinese and Batak. The local Riau dialect of Malay is considered as the lingua franca in the province, but Indonesian, the standardized form of Malay, is used as the official language and also as the second language of many people. Other than that, different languages such as Minangkabau, Hokkien and varieties of Batak languages are also spoken. Riau allegedly has been inhabited since the period between 10,000 to 40,000 BC. Between 5th to 12th century AD, traders and merchants from the Indian subcontinent visited the region to trade with the local people, spreading Hinduism and Buddhism in the process. Therefore, Riau was under the control of several Hindu-Buddhist kingdoms such as the Malayu Kingdom and the Srivijaya Empire. In the 14th century, Muslim traders from India and the Arabian Peninsula visited the region, beginning the spread of Islam in the region. By the end of the 14th century, Hindu and Buddhist influence are waning, while Islam influence are growing, leading to the dissolution of many Hindu-Buddhist kingdoms in Riau. Those kingdoms who still existed transformed itself into an Islamic sultanates. By the 16th century, there are three great Malay sultanates in the region, namely the Siak Sri Indrapura Sultanate, Indragiri Sultanates and the Johor Sultanate, the latter which would split in the 19th century into the modern Johor Sultanate in the Malay Peninsula and the Riau Lingga Sultanate in the Riau Archipelago. However, by that time Europeans began frequenting the region. First the Portuguese, then the Dutch and the British. In 1824, the Dutch and British agreed to divide the sphere of influence in the region, with the Malay Peninsula falling under the British and Sumatra falling under the Dutch. Soon afterwards, the power of the sultanates in the region began to wane. The sultanates soon became protectorate of the Dutch and was reduced to nothing but a puppet states of the Dutch East Indies, with the Dutch having the authority to intervene in the everyday's affair. This happens until 1942, when the Japanese invaded and occupied Riau during the Pacific theater of World War II. After 3 years of occupation which was marked by atrocities and war crimes, the Japanese surrendered in 1945. The Dutch soon returned to assume control of the region, but left in 1949 after the Dutch-Indonesian Round Table Conference, in which the Dutch agreed to transfer sovereignty of the Dutch East Indies to the Republic of Indonesia. Since then, Riau has been part of the unitary state of Indonesia. Geographically, Riau, which has thousands of cities in Pekanbaru, is located at position 02 degrees 25 LU 01 degrees 15 degrees LS and 100 degrees 03 104 degrees OOBT. The area is quite extensive and is located in the central part of Sumatra. Riau is directly adjacent to North Sumatra and the Straits of Malacca in the north, Jambi to the south, West Sumatra to the west and the Riau Islands in the east. The province shares maritime borders with Singapore and Malaysia. In general, the geography of Riau consists of mountains, lowlands, and islands. The mountain area lies in the western part, namely the Bukit Barisan Mountains, near the border of West Sumatra. The elevation decreases towards the east, making most of the central and eastern part of the province covered with lowlands. Off the eastern coast lies the Strait of Malacca where several islands lies. In climate, in general, Riau province has a wet tropical climate that is influenced by two seasons, namely the rainy and dry seasons. The average rainfall received by Riau province is between 2,000 to 3,000 millimeters, year with an average annual rainfall of 160 days. The areas that received the most rain were Rokanhulu Regency and Pekanbaru City. Meanwhile, the area that received the least rainfall was Siak Regency. The average air temperature of Riau is 25.9 degrees Celsius with maximum temperatures reaching 34.4 degrees Celsius and minimum temperatures reach 20.1 degrees Celsius. The highest temperature occurs in urban areas on the coast. On the contrary, the lowest temperature covers the high mountains and mountains. Air humidity can reach an average of 75%. Slightly different for the island region in the eastern region is also influenced by the characteristics of the sea climate. In government, the province of Riau is led by a governor who is elected directly with his representative for a 5-year term. In addition to being a regional government, the governor also acts as a representative or extension of the central government in the province, whose authority is regulated in Law No. 32 of 2004 and Government Regulation No. 19 of 2010. While the relationship between the provincial government and the regency and city governments is not a subordinate, each of these regional governments governs and manages government affairs according to the principle of autonomy and co-administration. Riau province is subdivided into 10 regencies, Kabupaten, and 2 autonomous cities, Kota. In ethnic, Riau is considered a very ethnically diverse province. As of 2015, the ethnic groups in Riau consist of Malays, 37.74%, Javanese, 25.05%, Minangkabau, 11.26%, Batak, 7.31%, Bonj, 3.78%, Chinese, 3.72%, and Bugis, 2.27%. The Malays are the largest ethnic group with a composition of 37.74% of the entire population of Riau. They generally come from coastal areas in Rokan Hilir, Dumai, Bengkalis, Pulau Meranti, up to Pelalawan, Siak, Indragiri Hulu and Indragiri Hilir. Riau was once the seat of great Malay sultanates, such as the Sultanate of Siak Sri Indrapura, Pelalawan and Indragiri Sultanate. There is also a sizable population Minangkabau people living in Riau, mostly in the areas bordering West Sumatra, such as Rokanhulu, Kampar, Kuantan Sangini, and part of Indragiri Hulu. Pekanbaru, the capital of Riau, has a Minangkabau majority, since it was once one of the Minangkabau anti-migration area. Many Manan in Pekanbaru have lived there for generations and has since assimilated into the Malay community. Most Manan in Riau generally work as merchants and live in urban areas such as Pekanbaru, Bangkanan, Duri, and Dumai. There are many other ethnic groups migrating from other provinces of Indonesia, such as the Batak Mandailing people who mostly lives in areas bordering North Sumatra such as Rokanhulu. Most of the Mandailing people now identify themselves as Malay rather than as Minangkabau or Batak. In the 19th century, the Banjaris of South Kalimantan and the Bugis of South Sulawesi also began arriving in Riau to seek better lives. Most of them settled in the Indragiri Hilir areas, especially around Temblahan. The opening of Caltex Oil Mining Company in the 1940s in Rumbai encouraged people from throughout the country to migrate to Riau. There are sizable Javanese and Sundanese population in Riau. Javanese forms the second largest ethnic group in the province, forming 25.05% of the total population. Most of them migrated to Riau due to the transmigration program dating from the Dutch East Indies and continued during the Suharto administration. The majority of them lives in transmigration communities spread throughout the region. Likewise, the Chinese people are generally similar to the Minangkabau as many of them also work as merchants. Many Riau Chinese lives in the capital Pekanbaru, and many can also found in coastal areas in the east such as Bagan Api, Selat Panjang, Rupat and Bengkelis. Most of the Chinese people in Riau are Hokklo people, whose ancestors migrated from Quanzhou in modern-day Fujian from the early 19th century to the mid-20th century. Some of the Riau Chinese has migrated to other parts of Indonesia, such as Medan and Jakarta, to seek better life opportunities, while some have also migrated to other countries such as Singapore and Taiwan. There are also some groups of indigenous people who live in rural areas and riverbanks, such as the Sake, Akit, Talang Mamak and Orang Laut. Some of them still leading the nomadic and hunter-gatherer lifestyle in the remote interior of Riau, while most settled into major cities and towns and with the rise of industrialization. In a religion, based on the composition of the population of Riau which is full of diversity with different socio-cultural, linguistic and religious backgrounds, it is basically an asset for the Riau region itself. The religions embraced by the inhabitants of this province are very diverse, including Islam, Protestantism, Catholicism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. Islam is the dominant religion in the province, forming 86.87% of the total population. In the economy of Riau expands faster, 8.66% in 2006, than the Indonesian average, 6.04% in 2006, and is largely a resource-based economy, including crude oil, 600,000 bpd, palm oil, rubber trees and other forest products. Local government income benefits from a greater share of tax revenue, mainly from crude oil, due to the decentralization law of 2004. The province has natural resources, both riches contained in the bowels of the earth, in the form of oil and gas, as well as gold, as well as forest products and plantations. Along with the implementation of regional autonomy, gradually began to apply the system for results or financial balance between central and local. The new rules provide expressly limits the obligations of investors, resource utilization, and revenue sharing with the surrounding environment. Riau's economy in the first quarter of 2017 grew by 2.82%, improving compared to the same period in the previous year which grew 2.74%, year-over-year. This growth was supported by growth in almost all businesses, except mining and excavation which contracted 6.72%. The highest growth occurred in the corporate services business field at 9.56%, followed by the processing industry of 7.30%, and government administration, defense and obligatory social security of 6.97%. Riau's economy in the first quarter of 2017 contracted by 4.88% compared to the fourth quarter of 2016. This contraction was influenced by seasonal factors in the agriculture, forestry and fisheries business field, -5.04%. In addition, contractions occur due to a decrease in several business fields, including mining and excavation, -3.50%, processing industry, -5.41%, large trade and retail, car and motorcycle repair, -2.46%, and construction, -8.94%. In tourism, the prime tourist attractions of Riau can be divided into natural environment, as well as the culture and history of the Riau Malay people. Tourist attractions in Riau are diverse, ranging from marine tourism, because of the location of Riau which is directly facing the Strait of Malacca. And also natural tourism is equally attractive when compared to other provinces in Sumatra. Not to mention historical tourism and cultural tourism which are also quite interesting for us to know. This multi-ethnic province has a long history, and it is also certain that there are many very interesting cultural reserves in Riau. Each of the regencies in Riau has a tourist attraction within. The Indragiri-Hilir Regency has a fairly long history before the Dutch colonial period. Quite a lot of power shifts while still in the kingdom. Starting from Karatang Kingdom, Kemuning Kingdom, Baton and Msuku Kingdom to Indragiri Kingdom. Besides having an interesting history, Indragiri-Hilir Regency also has interesting tourist attractions, and one of them is Solapa Beach, which is also a mainstay of tourist attractions in Riau. As Indragiri-Hilir was once the seat of the Indragiri Sultanate, there are many relics from the Sultanate that can be still found throughout the region, such as the Indragiri King's Cemetery in Rengat and traditional houses with typical Malay architecture. Moreover, Indragiri-Hilir is also known for its many waterfalls. Similar to Indragiri-Hilir, the Indragiri-Hulu Regency is filled of many tourism spots, such as waterfalls and relic of ancient Malay kingdoms. Furthermore, Indragiri-Hulu also serves as the gateway to the Bukit Tagapayu National Park. The location of Kampar Regency, which is directly adjacent with the province of West Sumatra, allows its culture to be greatly influenced by the culture of the Minangkabau people. Kampar Regency is also one of the contributors to tourist attractions in Riau, which is quite interesting, such as the Muirtikas Temple. There are also many spectacular waterfalls spread throughout Kampar. Moreover, there are also tombs of Malay and Minangkabau kings in Kampar. The city of Bangkanan has many tourist attractions that have nuances of nature, history, religion and culinary that cannot be found in any parts of Indonesia. The Kepulauan Meranti Regency has a variety of marine tourism destinations that are quite interesting to visit. This is why Kepulauan Meranti has become contributors to tourist attractions in Riau that attract more both domestic and international tourists each year. The capital Selapangang has a Chinese majority population, making it one of the few cities to have this characteristic. This explains why the culture of Selapangang as well as the whole of Kepulauan Meranti is highly influenced by both Chinese and Malay culture. Moreover, there are several Chinese temples that can be found in Selapangang and the surrounding area, including the Huanqian Temple, which is the oldest Chinese Taoism temple in Selapangang. Kuantan Singani Regency, commonly known as Kuanzing, is a rentang migration area for the Minangkabau people from West Sumatra. Therefore, the culture and customs of Kuanzing is highly influenced by Minangkabau culture. On the other hand, Kuanzing also contains many tourist destinations. Kuanzing is known for its cultural festival that usually happens during the Eid al-Fitr and other holidays such as the Baganjuang Boat Festival, Indonesian, Festival Parabaganjuang. The Baganjuang Boat Festival was first held as a festival in 1996. These boats are then decorated with flags, coconut leaves, umbrellas, loincloths, pumpkins, photos of the president and vice president, and other objects that have traditional symbols. For example, rice symbolizes agricultural fertility and buffalo horns that symbolize livestock. In the festival, guests were presented with a variety of entertainment, including Rarak Kalimpong, Panjekpanan, and Potang Tiug. The process of making a Baganjuang boat is usually blessed with a Malay ceremony. Another festival in Kuanzing is the Paku Jalar Festival. Paku Jalar is the largest annual festival for the people of the Kuantan Singani Regency, especially in the capital, Tayuk Kuantan, which is along the bank of the Kuantan River. Originally, the festival was held to commemorate the Islamic holidays such as the Maulid, or the commemoration of the New Year's Eve. But after the Indonesian independence, Paku Jalar is now usually held to celebrate the Independence Day of the Republic of Indonesia. Paku Jalar is a long-rowing boat race, similar to the dragon boat race in neighboring Malaysia and Singapore, which is a boat or canoe made of wood that can reach 25 to 40 meters in length. In the Tayuk Kuantan area, the native people called the longboat used in the festival as Jalar. The boat rower team ranges from 50 to 60 people. Pelalauan Regency has a long history, even as the name Pelalauan was taken from the name of the former Pelalauan kingdom. and the Pelalawan Kingdom was once victorious in 1725 and was very famous with its Sultan Syed Abdurrahman and Fakhruddin. Apart from its history, Pelalawan also stores quite a lot of tourist attractions besides its history. Remnants of the old Pelalawan Kingdom can still be seen throughout the Regency, such as Siap Pelalawan Palace where the former Sultan of Pelalawan reside. Inside the Pelalawan Wing Palace there are many relics, such as Karas weapons, spears, and various other relics placed in the palace central room. Another remnants is tomb of the Sultans of Pelalawan. Most of the tourists who frequented the tomb are usually pilgrims, and certain days the tomb is quite crowded with pilgrims. Moreover, Pelalawan serves as the gateway to the Tesunilo National Park. Raukenhiller Regency, as one of the regencies in Riau, which is directly facing the Strait of Malacca, was once the largest fish producer in Indonesia. Since the Dutch colonial era, Raukenhiller with its capital Baganzi Api has already become more advanced than other regions, especially in terms of trade. The tourism industry in Raukenhiller is also quite well known both on a national and international scale. Raukenhiller is known for its tourist spots and festivals such as the Junk Burning Festival. Known in the local Riau Hokkien as Gojek Kaplak, Chinese, _Pinion, Wuyu Shili Ubring, Hokkien Pudge, Gogo Echaplak Jit. The Junk Burning Festival is an annual ritual of the community in Baganzi Api which has been well known overseas and is included in the Indonesian tourism tourist. Every year this ritual can attract tourists from Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Taiwan to mainland China. Now this annual event is heavily promoted by the government of Raukenhiller Regency as a source of tourism. The initial history of the festival was started by Chinese people who lived in Baganzi Api to commemorate their ancestors and also as a gesture of gratitude to the god Kiongya. Other than that, Baganzi Api and the surrounding area has many Chinese temples that can be visited. The Raukenhiller Regency has the nickname Negeri Seribu Suliuk. The district is bordered by two provinces, namely North Sumatra and West Sumatra. It is certain that the acculturation of culture in Raukenhiller Regency has become more diverse, starting from customs and traditions. Raukenhiller contains many lakes, waterfalls and caves that is spread throughout the region. One of the historical assets that is still standing firmly in Raukenhiller is the Palace of Raukenhiller. This palace, which is already 200 years old, is a relic of the Nagari Sultanate. Although there are some parts of the repair, but the architecture is still intact and also the carvings on the wood are still clearly visible. Siak Regency is the number 2 richest district in Riau after Bengkalis Regency. The main export of Siak Regency is petroleum, which finally can deliver it to become the second richest regency in the province. On the other hand, the regency is currently boosting the tourism sector to attract more visitors. As Siak was once the house of the Sultanate of Siak Sri Indrapura, the regency contains remnants of the Sultanate that is still well preserved, such as the Siak Sri Indrapura Palace. The palace complex has an area of about 32,000 square meters consisting of 4 palaces, namely Istana Siak, Istana Lima, Istana Pajang, and Istana Baru. Each of the palace, including Siak Palace itself, has an area of 1,000 square meters. The palace contains royal ceremonial objects, such as a gold-plated crown set with diamonds, a golden throne, and personal objects of Sultan Sarif Qasim and his wife, such as the komet, a multi-centennial musical instrument which is said to have been made only 2 copies in the world. Presently, the komet is still functioning and is used to play works by composers such as Beethoven, Mozart and Strauss. Siak is also home to the tomb of Sultan Sarif Qasim II, the last Sultan of Siak. Dumai is a city located in Riau whose location is very strategic, especially for international trade because of its location in the Strait of Malacca. In addition, Dumai is the largest city in Indonesia at this time. Dumai is home to many beaches and mangrove forests. The capital of Riau, Pekanbaru, contains several tourist attractions. The Idris Tintin Art Building is named after an Indonesian artist named Idris Tintin. Judging from the architecture of the Idris Tintin Art Building, almost looks like a Malay royal palace, even though this building functioned as an art performance venue. Various works by Indonesian artists are displayed in the building. The Anur Great Mosque is the pride of Pekanbaru. Anur Great Mosque is one of the grandest mosques in Indonesia. Anur Great Mosque was built in 1968 from the side of its architecture, which is similar to the Taj Mahal in India. Therefore, many people Riau called the mosque as the Taj Mahal of Riau. Soeman H.S. library is named after Soeman H.S., a novelist from Riau, and his name is immortalized as the name of the library in downtown Pekanbaru. What is very interesting is the architecture of the building, which is similar to open books or like a placemats for the Quran. This tourist spot in Riau has quite a collection of books, and has even been the largest library in Asia. Now, so many cultural tourism canoe journey in Riau. Welcome to Riau and have a nice journey. Thank you.